Hi there. Welcome back to the Journey Through John. I'm excited to talk about John 3 with you today. In my ponderings about what we're going to talk about today, I was thinking, this is a little bit like seeing a photo album of John's. You see, John, the beloved disciple, is the writer of John, not to be confused with John the Baptist, who we are going to discuss today. But John really shows us these important examples of Jesus's power, supernatural signs and wonders, and we're going to see more and more of those in the days ahead. But he gives us important glimpses into this journey with Jesus. He showed us some unfortunate family events, if I can call them that. We saw greed, a picture of greed with the clearing of the temple, of Jesus clearing the temple. We saw, Nathaniel's prejudicial opinion about Jesus. We've seen the haughty attitude or the self-righteous attitudes of the Pharisees and the Levites and priests. We've also seen Nicodemus, who is just uncomfortable maybe, or just not quite, maybe confused. And so we tend to want to show our best side, and John is already showing us our humanity, all these things that we really are in some way, shape, or form. And so I'm thankful for another glimpse into John the Baptist, because John the Baptist, in our first viewing of him, showed us one that is humble, showed us one that is faithful and obedient, and one that truly understood his purpose and the plan for his life. In our John 3, we see even a glimpse into the future. It says in John 3 verses, verses 24, it says, "For John had not yet been put in prison." So it even shows us in the future that John the Baptist is going to be put in prison. In fact, he will also die for his faith. And so we're seeing this John the Baptist once again, because John, the beloved disciple, thinks that another view of him is important. In fact, Jesus and his disciples were baptizing in one section of the water. John the Baptist and his disciples were baptizing in another part of the water. And then John the Baptist's disciples said, "Hey, Rabbi, he who was with you across the Jordan, to whom you bore witness, look, he's baptizing and all the people are going to him." And they're not happy with this tension. They're not happy with the fact that no longer are the followers coming to them, because they want all the followers, I guess all the popularity. And so they're pointing this out to John the Baptist, and so obviously they're not that clear about John the Baptist's role at this point. But I love John the Baptist's consistent response. He says, "You yourself bear witness that I have said, I'm not the Christ, but I have been sent before him." And then he steps into comparing the bride, the bridegroom, and the friend of the groom. And he says, the friend of the groom is just here to support the bridegroom as the bridegroom meets his bride. And the bride is the church. The bridegroom is Christ. And John the Baptist is the friend that is here to say, yes, yes. And when they meet together, they get married, then the friend of the groom says yes, and their purpose is done. And so that's what John the Baptist basically says here. This joy of mine is now complete. And then it goes on to verse 30. He must increase. So Jesus must increase, but I must decrease. John the Baptist must decrease. And this verse, John 3:30, has been one that's been very important to me. In fact, I quite often write it in my journal before I even start my day. It's a discipline that I do because I am very aware of my humanity and the fact that I can get ahead of myself and ahead of my God, who has a plan for my day. But if I'm in front of putting myself and elevating myself, then Christ is not going to be seen. And so I often write John 3:30 in my journal. Because I don't want me to be seen. I want Christ to be seen. And that's what John the Baptist is saying here. In fact, it goes on and he says, he who comes from above is above all. So he's referring to Jesus. And he who is of earth belongs to the earth and speaks in earthly ways. And he's referring to himself, knowing that he's only speaking of earthly ways. And then it goes on down further. The Father loves the Son and has given all things to him, all things into his hand. Whoever believes in the Son has eternal life, and whoever does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. That's not what we want. You know, I go to Matthew 16, and I want to read this to you. And it's 16 verse 24. Then Jesus told his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life would lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And that just goes into this whole principle of he must increase, I must decrease, is all about living a surrendered life. And this world would say, hey, do everything you can, give it your gusto, use all your strength, your ability, your intelligence, your resources, whatever you have, and make it work. Be a self-made person. But that's not what God says. He says for us to surrender our lives. And as we surrender our lives to the Lord, he will give us clear purpose and path for this life that he fully intended us to have. He never intended us to do this life without him. It says in Psalm 16, I've set the Lord always before me. He is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. And that is the rock, the fortress. That's our deliverer that we have. And so read on tomorrow. Read John 4. Read the story about the Samaritan woman. And I look forward to having a conversation with you about that. Take care.